This is Doug Lindsay with Autofocus Cars and Vids. Today we're going to talk about the Porsche Macan, the base Macan that the dealer gave me for a week while they were checking out the Boxster for electrical issues. Good news, the Boxster has no electrical issues. Bad news, the battery goes dead if you let it sit too long. Too long is not very long, but that's another video. I had a base Macan in Miami Blue. Frankly, after driving it a day or two in Miami Blue, I couldn't bring myself to think of owning one in black or gray or some boring color. Now, the Porsche Macan came out in 2016. It had a refresh in 2021. They added a light bar to the back and a few other During the daytime, the Macan looks like a regular SUV, but at night, with the light bar in the back and the 4-dot headlights in the front on either side, the panoramic sunroof that pulls back halfway that you can stand and look out of, a million buttons, 2 nav screens, and everything else aglow. It looks like a fucking spaceship. Looks like a star, like something that jettisoned the mothership before it blew. And it drives great. The interior. Mine had a black interior. I think it only had a few options. Miami Blue, a tech package that had all sorts of camera angles, and Turbo S wheels. The interior was just well done, well appointed. It felt like a Porsche interior. It was tight and high quality, and it was very comfortable. The seats were way more comfortable than in the Boxster or the 911. It would be an amazing car to pick up in LA and drive to New York, or pick up in New York and drive to LA. Would it win a Cannonball? Not against the world's best competition, but frankly, it's an ideal car for that if you just wanted to make great time in comfort on a long trip. A lot of cars are fast now. They're just, even minivans are pretty fast on the highway. You can get going, but they're not stable. So the minute you have to turn, the minute you have to slow down, the minute you have to do anything other than locked in at 90 miles an hour down an empty, boring, flat stretch of highway, the minute you have to do anything, you're reminded of physics, and you're reminded that you're in a large, unbalanced, terribly driving vehicle. And that's just not the case with the Macan. It looks like every other small SUV if you squint, but it doesn't handle like them. I had a Nissan Maxima on a 500-mile trip just a few weeks before I had the Macan. And the Maxima is a car with 300 horsepower, it's nimble, it's quick, it's sort of the dividing line between boring transportation and things that are fun and nice. And so the Macan was dramatically better, in my opinion, than the Maxima in every way that I could tell. I took the Maxima on a real trip, and I took the Macan on the same back roads that I take the Boxster on. And the Macan just did a stellar job. I mean, it's got big, wide tires, but this was the base suspension, not any of the elaborate suspensions. It was the base motor, but it still has the PDK transmission, and it's just great. It's balanced. At one point, I got the car all 4 wheels sliding, and that reminded me that this is an engineered and balanced machine. You know, it didn't just plow forward with understeer. It didn't lose the tail and spin me around. It just slid all 4 tires in the same direction, caught traction, and kept going. That happened to be when I was trying to return it to the dealer and came in the turn a little hot. And I didn't want to embarrass the dealer, so I just kept driving and drove it around the block and kept it another day, because there was somebody leaving a different dealership and I didn't want them to think poorly of the Porsche people, because it was my fault. So I kept it another day. But the 2-liter turbo is quick. It's not a fast car, but it's not appreciably slower than a WRX, which is a sporty car. It's not some, you know, Audi RS4 with a tune that's going to blow away everything else, but it's plenty fast, and it's plenty fast out on the road. I can imagine that the faster Macans, a GTS or a turbo, would give a Mustang GT a run for its money on the track. I would love to see that, those two things side by side, because the Macan is just well sorted and well balanced. So that was my driving impression. I consider the primary competitor of a Macan to be a WRX, a Subaru WRX. And I say that because they're both cars that are fun, and that's what I'm looking at. What has space? What is fun? What is connected? To me, the Macan wasn't connected enough for me. You can get going pretty fast and not notice it, and I don't really want that from a car. So I'd rather have the bumpiness and the extra money and just buy a WRX. But when a used Macan starts to come down in price and these WRXs start to come up in price, it's very appealing, because that thing is just a solid car. It's better in every way, the Macan, and it was really impressive. I would assume that there are good Cadillacs, good BMWs, a few Lexuses, you know, some Audis, maybe a couple other cars that are more fun as sedans than the Macan is as an SUV, but I would think there's very few SUVs that are more fun, maybe one, the Lamborghini, and other than that, that thing's a blast, man. It's durable, it's well built, and it was very much fun. And then at nighttime, you feel like you're in a spaceship, and you can feel like a kid. Miami Blue is a lot of blue, and an SUV has a lot of space on it compared to, say, you know, a Boxster with a convertible top. But I ended up loving the Miami Blue. I thought it was a ridiculous car and a ridiculous color, but it was fun. And that's what I would like from driving. So the Macan, you know, exterior, it worked for me. It looked great in shots. I did a photo shoot with it. I think it came alive, and I think it got a lot of attention because of that color. And I wish it had been one of the higher spec, faster Macans, because then at least it would have the performance to match the color. If the price had been a little lower and it had the V6 instead of the 4-cylinder, maybe I could have been persuaded to add a Miami Blue Macan to the stable. But as it is, I returned it, I missed it, but I'm gonna stick with sports cars for now. So this is Doug Lindsay with Autofocus Cars and Vids. Have you driven the Boxster? Have you driven the Macan? How have you felt the Macan stacks up against other sports sedans or fun sedans or SUVs? I think I went into it thinking it was a good looking car, and I left thinking that it's a great car. And I don't really like SUVs these days, so it's a blast. Leave a comment, subscribe, like, and look for the next video. This is Renegade Space Force Commander Major Lance Lasers, sending this message from my star pod. I escaped the mothership before it blew, and I'm traveling under the codename Miami Blue. I repeat, I am traveling under the codename Miami fucking Blue. Over and out.